Hello and welcome back to Val Verde Broadcasting with what we hope is a timely review of The Flash, starring Ezra Miller and Michael Keaton. A quick bit of housekeeping from me. This Sunday, which is the 18th of June in the year of our Lord 2023, I'm going to be doing a charity bike ride from London to Brighton, which is 56 miles or 90 kilometres, if those who prefer metric, in aid of Jimmy's Night Shelter in Cambridge, which is the same charity we were raising money for during our Touch You Bleed screening and the such like. And we've made approximately £300 for them so far between the bike ride and the screening, which is really, really great. So if you would like to donate some money, we would really appreciate that. That goes to help the homeless of Cambridge, our hometown, and you can find a link in the description. So I'm Richard Jackson. I'm joined by Duncan Casey. Hi, Duncan.
Hi.
We both saw simultaneously, but in different parts of the country, Andy Muschietti's film The Flash last night. Well, that certainly exists, doesn't it, Duncan?
It is an film what exists, yes. Can confirm I did just sit in an empty parking lot last night.
But perhaps wished you had.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Are we going to do, I think we should do sort of a bit of non-spoilery stuff at the top, and then we should just talk about it.
I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah, so let's just say we'll put a time code here. Bling! And this is where the spoilers begin. That's our normal way of doing things.
Yeah.
So non-spoiler review of The Flash.
Dog toilet.
Dog toilet. Inoffensive but boring is my... apart from, you know, the star being a horrific, abusive deviant, I found it completely inoffensive. Like, it borrowed the arse off me. I got to say, like, I was just... Oh, by the way, just shout out to Dino Barletta, who stopped me in Tesco the other day and we had a nice little chat. And he's been to see The Flash and he put his review in the comments of our Q&A video. Yeah, I honestly, like, the whole spectacle of seeing Michael Keaton and stuff and some other things wore off really quickly. And there's some bits... I know the whole internet's kind of losing its shit over bad CGI, but this some of the worst CGI I've seen in a mainstream superhero film ever. And I don't like to beat that drum. I think people complain about CGI too much, if anything. But even I was like, whoa, wow, that's your film. Holy shit. Like, you're actually presenting that. I mean, because we'll talk about it later, but there's a sequence where it's just like Xbox 360 level of cutscene. Like, it looked so unfinished and it's within a sequence that's a kind of tesseract, which we've seen a few times in different movies now.
Even earlier on, though, there's stuff that... Because that again, without spoilers, but that sort of stuff could get away with it in the kind of Matrix way, which is that this isn't necessarily supposed to be taken as absolute reality. But there is stuff that is supposed to take place in the real world that just looks rubbery and awful. Again, I don't like to dog on stuff like that too much, but it's very noticeable and there are noticeable things done as well, again, which we'll get into, I suppose, more in the spoilers, but there are clear, like, mouth replacement things that I'm like, is that part of the reshoots that you've just gone in and redone them saying different things?
I didn't notice that.
Oh, I'll tell you, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Mostly my body language was...
Yeah, look, I mean, so just in terms of my overview of the whole thing, it's like, it's a perfunctory walk in the woods thing. It's so A to B to C to Z to back to B again. It's set piecey as hell. Like, everything is just clearly pre-designed. It has that aesthetic. There's an awful lot of stuff from the Justice League film as well. There's an awful lot of stuff that takes place in sort of silos or in, you know, things with levels that people have to jump up and down with no meat on it. There's no meat on the bones of this whatsoever. It's a total member berry fest without any... Whereas something like No Way Home, you could easily accuse that of the same thing, but it tied it all together with character and with, you know, with a degree of heart. Yeah, it was fairly surface level as well, but I bought into that. I felt it. Whereas this, it's all committee made decisions, and when we get into the spoilers, there's clear evidence of things being reshot and redone, and right. It's like, and the cynicism of that is just unbelievable.
No Way Home. Again, I don't want to get into a Marvel DC debate because I'm nearly 40. This isn't that discussion. This is what people are coming out to see on Friday night. That's always my perspective. No Way Home paid off the visiting characters, paid off threads from those visiting characters and revisited the emotional stakes and well-being and situation of those returning characters. Bruce Wayne has long hair for a bit, you know, and I found something so I don't think it's badly directed, honestly.
Well,
you know,
I will point out the bits I think that were, but I do think Andy Muschietti generally is very competent, and I like him a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to lay much at his door over this. This is going to make a zillion quid anyway, so good for Andy Muschietti. Well, I don't know, because I feel like all the guys our age, you want to see Batman. That's what they've. Anyway, I found frequently with the writing, it was really hard to understand people's motivations if they had any. It would just be like, I'm not doing that. And then 5 minutes later, they go, you're right, I'll do that. And it's like, what? But nothing has changed in the intervening 5 minutes. Like, I don't know what you care about. And a lot of, it was mildly disjointed. It wasn't, I'm at real pains to point out that I did not like it, but it wasn't like Suicide Squad or something. It wasn't some hugely mangled, disjointed thing. Yeah. It just kind of, but it was very guilty of things just sort of happening. Also, can we just say, I'm pretty sure they must have shot Big Chucks this in Britain, because the guy who plays the lawyer at the end is in it from a million British TV shows. But Sanjeev Bhaskar is Flash's boss.
Sanjeev Bhaskar's in it. There's lots of stuff at the end, which I don't get to spoil stuff. Right. Which is very and the actors they've got to play the reporters, I'm sorry, and I don't like dogging on individuals, but their American accents were lacking.
So the guy, I don't know, the guy with the beard who plays like the West's lawyer, he's in loads of British TV.
Yes,
he was fine, he's great. But when they went out to the street, the reporter walks up and goes, "Excuse me, Wild West, I'm from America," and it was like, oh, and this looks like London.
Here's an example of like bad dialogue as well. I said bearded lawyer, again, who I totally recognise as a British actor, but he has to give, it's a key bit of plot information. I won't say any more than that, but it's done by like, new information has come to light thanks to technology provided by Wayne Industries, and all I heard in the back of my head was Feck Arse Industries. it was just so sort of like, why would you put that in, you know what I mean? It's like, what, branding your summation of this, you know?
Yeah, branded exposition. Like,
oh my God.
I kept thinking, the Father Ted quote I kept thinking, because I kept thinking about how I was going to talk to you, was like, frankly, it borrowed the airsoft.
Yeah. What the hell was it about anyway? Jesus.
I'm still pulling this apart, right? So I hadn't noticed the kind of reshooty stuff. I was too busy being bored, I think. But the more I think about it, the more I realize, because there are bits like, I think it's really, like, for the most part, the stuff in kind of actual sets is really nicely shot. So I don't know.
The same guy who did Guardians 3, apparently, who I'm not sure who that was, but yes.
Okay. So, like, the stuff in Barry's flat looks really nice. But I wonder what's reshoots. There's because you get these. It's a film that doesn't trust its audience, basically, and you get these horrible exposition dumps, and it feels like things are going quite smoothly. And then someone will sit down and just bang, and like it clangs to earth with like this big exposition dump. And not like, because what I found funny, you know, I rag on the Watchmen film a lot, but because Watchmen had this unenviable task of compressing everything down into a film, you have to everyone sit down and go, of course, in 1963, you remember the incident in Guatemala. And then they have to just, in this, it was kind of like, go fast on a time travel. You go fast on a time travel, I go fast on a time travel. And they just repeat things to each other. Round and round.
The nauseating. I mean, it was going in, I was like, great, I have to watch Ezra Miller for 2 hours. And not only that, I have to watch 2 Ezra Millers. And it was as bum-curdlingly irritating as I thought it would be. It's like two modes of Ezra Miller, irritating and more noxiously irritating. Yeah, it was just like, he gets the moments he gets where he actually gets to do some proper acting and it's like heartfelt stuff. I was like, that's your acting coach. All that is, you know, this is what frustrates me, and I guess I can rag on him because he's fair game because he picks up ladies and targets or whatever. Yeah, he thinks he's the Spider Queen or whatever. But it's so clear to me so much. It just the hand holding that went on through that performance and the choices made by Miller are ones that we can't take out now because he's done it before. So the whole speed runny thing with his hand that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. It just looks weird. And the payoff is he does a sort of joke when I guess is this a spoiler, but he loses his powers at one point, and it's like, and then he tries to do it around a room, and it looks stupid. And it's like, yeah, because it's stupid.
And they did the same joke 3 times.
Yeah.
It's why powers don't work. It's the same joke 3 times in rapid succession. Though it seemed to work with the audience in my screening. So I was like, you're going to do the same joke again? Okay, fine. Yeah.
As an actor myself, though, I can see there's no through line in thought there. There's no, when you're putting him up against Keaton. And those scenes where, and like the actress who plays his mum, and I'm sorry, I should have researched her name before going. I thought she was excellent.
She's great.
Everyone around him is brilliant. The actress plays Supergirl. I thought was brilliant. I thought pretty much everyone in the film was brilliant, apart from him. And it's like, he's so lacking in that department of like it's clearly a vanity thing. It's like a look at me, I'm going to show off and be funny right now, and it's like. Yeah, and it's frustrating because he's turned in like we need to talk about Kevin and stuff was obviously a fairly nuanced performance. But it's just smacks of like ego and sometimes that can be good, but mostly not.
Yeah, I'm happy to keep hammering the nails into Ezra Miller for this because I have notes. Not that it matters what I think, but. So this 2 hours 35. I've just looked up the runtime. I didn't bother. I was just kind of like, well, I'm watching Flash. This is what it is. He does a lot. I didn't hate his performance as Flash and other things in the way others did, but I recognized the issues with it. In this, he mugs, he's shrill, it's kind of grating. And what they do is when they introduce younger Barry Allen, he's extra annoying. And present day Barry Allen's performance he becomes the straight man, and a younger Ezra Miller, younger Barry Allen is the really irritating one. And they lampshade that by having older Flash going, "Wow, I'm annoying," and it's like we know, like because that's what I really think that's reactive to people's criticisms of that character. Is like we know, like just lampshading it on us and doing it more. That's not okay. That doesn't make it better, So it's not. Sometimes it's proper kind of like. Kind of proper mugging, and then he does the Speedy Gonzalez Ace Ventura thing, and like, but the older one kind of goes, "That's stupid." And it's like, yeah, but you still did it, and the thing, and this is a spoiler for a joke. He phases through walls as the Flash is known to do. He does it once, doesn't work, ha ha. Does it twice, doesn't work, ha ha. And then I'm sat there going, well, he's going to try and run around the room, and it's going to be silly, and he did. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's essentially the same joke 3 times. And yeah, his kind of like thing, I don't get it. I mean, I think we've had other live action depictions of the Flash, and that kind of weird scoopy thing, and it looks even worse when they have to have him run backwards for the time travel.
Yeah. I mean, so look, in summary, shite. Don't see it. Should we? Should we?
Say fairer than that.
I'm just sort of over pussyfooting around this sort of stuff. Should we? Let's go into spoilers and then maybe more broadly talk about where we think this is going to leave the DC.
In a nutshell, I think it's long and it's boring, and there's some good performances, some irritating performances. The story feels kind of empty. The whole thing felt empty, and I failed to understand people's motivations, and that is my non-spoiler capture of the Flash. Duncan's leaned straight into it. Shite, don't see it, which I love. Cool. Yeah, we'll go for it, man. If you want to talk spoilers, let's talk spoilers.
Okay, well, I suppose, overview is, and I think it's been pretty much spoiled by the trailer. It's pretty easy to guess. Look, Barry Allen discovers he can go back in time, does so, sort of messes with timelines, ends up in a world where his mum's alive, but the other things are...
I mean, it's a very loose adaptation of Flashpoint, essentially.
Yeah.
If you know Flashpoint, like, it doesn't then go to the cool Flashpoint universe, which it probably should have done.
100% it should have done. And it's like you don't cast Jeffrey Dean Morgan and... Lauren Cohen as Batman's parents not to have that happen. And it was quite clear in BVS, which sounds like a type of gravy, that that's what they were going for, right? Because you've got two actors of note. It probably cost quite a lot of money just to have in that cameo, and also Flash comes back in time in that, so it's like, well, probably, but no, and yeah, I mean, it seems like Michael Keaton being in it. It's anyway. So yeah, obviously, no, he has to get with Michael Keaton. They go and get who they think is Superman to help them because Zod comes back again. Not particularly clear why. It's sort of, I guess he's just gone back in time. And there's talk of sort of Nexus, which is deeply Terminator Genesis like. Yeah.
And through the meeting of spaghetti in this.
Yes, yeah. Which is sort of like, I think it's Zod's the sort of zero really is Zod's attack of Earth, because again we get that from another perspective, but it's Barry Allen. So.
It turns out it was, and they do the Spider-Man costume thing that they did in Spider-Man. They did in Spider-Man: Homecoming. And they did in The Amazing Spider-Man.
So, right, I mean, it all culminates in this big battle in the desert, which I think is supposed to be that moment from Man of Steel where Zod meets Superman in the desert, but obviously he's not there. So it turns, and it turns into a big battle, and then we discover that actually there is no way of stopping this, and all throughout, Barry is knocked out of when he's on his way back from, because it's this thing of like his mum died supposedly because she didn't have tomatoes, and his dad went to prison for it because there was no evidence that he hadn't gone and got tomatoes. And Barry's whole thing is, well, if I just go and put an extra can of tomatoes in the shopping cart, then he'll never have to go out for tomatoes, and then that will never happen.
Yeah, it's your butterfly effect chaos theory thing,
which is fine as a plot device. It's deeply irritating that we never find out exactly why his mum was killed. It doesn't matter, but
this is the thing with that, right? Because it doesn't, because the whole thing is resolved by the tin of tomatoes, by his dad not being home. So, like, someone just like in the Flash mythology, I think it's the Reverse Flash that killed his mum. I think,
right?
Which is also a time travel thing. So why is that okay? But I'm not sure. I'm not going to pull at that because I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're left with this situation where someone just ran in and stabbed his mum in the chest, and in the alternate timeline, this guy just kind of looked through a window and went, "Fuck it, I'll go stab someone next door or whatever." Because it's not. I realized that who did it. That it's not a who done it, right?
No.
But that is a massively dangling thing where it's like, well, someone stabbed his mum apparently for no reason.
But as in anyway, so there's all that. There's that butterfly effect stuff in there. But then, obviously, Michael Keaton's taking the place of Thomas Wayne, which doesn't work because you then don't have that. The whole point is that the connection between Barry Allen and Thomas Wayne is that they both lost, like Thomas Wayne has lost his son, and it's kind of like, okay, you can have that loose thing of, well, they both lost their parents, but you also have that with the Affleck Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like, well, we know that anyway. It's not like this is a particularly poignant thing. And
you lose the big poignant thing for Flashpoint is that Thomas Wayne is able to send a letter to Bruce Wayne across the divide, and the big sad thing in the Flashpoint is Batman reads a letter from his father. He tells him, like, "You're doing well. I love you. I'm sorry things are this way."
Exactly.
Whereas in this, you just get a joke about Batman being played by a different actor, and it's like a goofy, So like the thing, because I would have do you know what? Fine, have fucking Michael Keaton play an alternate Thomas Wayne if you have to, because he's not really the Batman '89 Batman. It's an alternate reality.
There are elements of it, but not really.
I mean, it's like time's been corrupted, folded over, so he's been planted into the DCEU essentially. Like, it's not like he is that. And he dies anyway. By the way, Michael Keaton.
Well, now, and this speaks to. So we knew, right? Because there was supposed to be that. Well, there was supposed to be that super Batgirl film, right, which he was supposed to be in, and you can tell where they've cut around that to make him die. Because the only reason why he dies is shown in close up, right? So it's like the first time he dies by flying the Batwing into the thing, and that's like where you can cover that in a close up. The second time he dies is after fighting that guy, and it's like all those other shots are sort of quite ambiguous as to whether or not he's mortal.
It's very unclear as to how he gets injured because he fights a giant, fine, but it's like he's just got blood under his, and it's like, okay, that seems very well covered,
So they have to kill him. They kill Supergirl as well, which I thought was deeply unnecessary. But I know
4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 times. So
and it's like, okay, I get what you're saying is that this is just something. There's that 3-line thing that his mum says to him is that some problems don't have a solution or whatever it is. And, that's his problem, and he's got like some alternate Barry ends up being older and melty.
So he gets he just to clarify for those at home. When Barry originally goes to save his mum, as he's going back to his own time, a big black monster thing knocks him out of the time bubble into the alternate 2009, 3, I can't remember.
Whenever it would be.
Oh
yeah, that was something I thought. Sorry to derail, but I was like, the timelines of this imply that in around about 2003, 2004, someone called their kid Barry, which seems unlikely.
This is the thing with all these superhero names were invented in the 1930s, right, or 1940s.
Yeah.
But so that happens, and it's very, 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 very obviously of alternate Barry.
Yeah,
there's nothing to say that it isn't, and then the shock reveal is, wait for it, it's an alternate Barry. And I don't understand that every time alternate Barry gets, so the younger Barry, I get the motivation here because the younger Barry, being 18, gets drunk on the godlike power and thinks he can just do, change time as much as he likes. Every time he goes back, he gets a different spike on him for some reason. So by the end, he's a kind of Shadow the Hedgehog kind of thing. And
and then that all melts together. I mean, I'd gotten the impression, because I saw that character design and I was like, is that the bat suit? Because he makes a suit out of the bat suit. Mm-hmm. And is that just because he's gone too fast and it's melted? Because that was the whole thing, is you create change. So I was like, is that what's happened? It's all kind of just melted into him because he stopped listening.
Yeah.
I mean, again, say it. You said everything else. Say that. But it was. So I just think like it's clearly built up around member berries with the connective tissue just being convenience to get you to where it's like, oh, you get the hero pose, Michael Keaton's Batman, and Michael Keaton's great. He's really great. He's introduced.
He's reliably great.
He comes flying out of a cupboard. Yeah. I did like that scene, because it was like, well, normal Barry hasn't got his power, so he's getting the shit kicked out of him, while young Barry's sort of dodging all this stuff.
And old Bruce Wayne is a thing we've seen a million times, right? And old Bruce Wayne is highly dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think they got to do Michael Keaton, thanks to stunt that wasn't CGI of these days, gets to have a really great physicality as Batman. He's got that kind of Arkham thing that's like, he's not doing awkward, stiff kicks and stuff. Like he's really, really convincing.
And I like that they still keep the kind of scientist element to him that I'd kind of forgotten about from the Burton universe. It's like when they need to escape on that platform and he gets his tape measure out and he's like,
yes,
and it's like just figuring out what bomb to put on.
That's great because it looks like a detonator and he goes, yeah, that was great. That was really cool. And also when they recreate the thing, they recreate Barry's accident and he's like, that's highly dangerous. It won't work. You want some help? And it's like, he's a scientist guy. Yeah. All right, cool.
No, I loved all that, and it's kind of this is what I mean though. It's lesser than the sum of its parts, but there are some great moments in it, and I don't totally hate Ezra Miller, and I don't totally hate. And like I say, I loved Supergirl is a massive positive for me. Not only because I think the actress is really good, but I think they finally did. Like, that's the kind of stuff I would have liked to have seen from Henry Cavill's Superman, right? The sort of the flying, the look of it, the aesthetic. Putting the camera with her, like take off with her, like do all sorts of cool stuff. Don't just make a boom out of shot. I loved all that. It was really, really well realized, I thought.
It's an interesting choice to change her look because traditionally she's blonde girl, right? And we get Helen Slater Supergirl anyway. Yes. We can get to that. But the new Supergirl look, because she looks like Clark. She's got dark hair and dark short hair, so she looks more like she can make like, not that cousins. I don't look like my cousins, but it's like they look like they'd be related. Like they look as if and it's kind of, and she's got the kind of. Yeah, I really liked all that. I thought that was great. Like I've read. Have you heard Michael Shannon talking about this?
I was literally gonna say about Michael Shannon. Yeah, I think he was just a bit like, was I there?
Yeah.
What happened?
Like, I thought I died. Like, and when you watch it, I'm a little bit like, was he even on the set? That could just be voiceover for all I know, because he's always behind the kind of spacesuit thing, isn't he? You remember the Kryptonian?
And if you listen to the dialogue he says in it, it's very expositional because it has to, because it's kind of like, well, but it is so dry. There's no evidence of motivation. There's that. It does the whole thing about like the cult or whatever, and then it's like,
as an actor, he's totally out at sea. Like he's just like, I don't know why I'm here. Good for him. Good for him. Michael Shannon's excellent. I thought he was excellent as Zod. Huge highlight, Man of Steel. If I was Michael Shannon and someone parks up at my house and said, "Here's £1 million to turn up for a few days on the green screen," I would fucking
Oh, God, yeah, no,
I'm
nothing
not
against him
slagging
in some
Michael
way.
Shannon at all, but you can tell he's just like, I'm just going to say this dialogue as convincingly as I can. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But that character's supposed to be dead. Like
The frustrations of this movie, I don't really lay at any one person's feet, and certainly not the creatives. Really, I think they had to have Ezra Miller, which is a fault. Again, what I'm seeing more and more and more, and certainly from my end of it as well, is that casting decisions are not being made by creatives; they're being made by studio execs and money people now, and that shows in stuff like this, because it's like, well, shouldn't it be Jeffrey Dean Morgan? No, we could get Michael Keaton. Shouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Can we recast the Flash? No, it's because we've contractually bound to use Ezra Miller. Shouldn't we use? No, and it's just like, look, if you can't let the people whose job it is to make the film, then so it's
and we both think Andy Muschietti's a cool director, right? Like it's not him whatsoever.
I think he has a problem with tone. I do think he has a problem with tone. Like you saw it in the It movies. There's people cite often the leper scene, where it just starts throwing up in slow motion on him, and you get Just Call Me Angel in the morning playing for no apparent reason, and it's like, hang on, is this supposed to be scary or funny? Because I'm not really sure. And there is a bit of that in the Flash. There's a bit of sort of tonal, just neck breaking, like 180 degree. What was that? Like but I get it's different in a film like this, because I'm not really supposed to. I get it. I'm supposed to kind of have elements of that. It's a comic book movie. That's fine. But yeah, should we talk cameos? Because
one thing I just want to cover off one thing before I forget, and it leads on from your point about kind of tonal jarringness. The scene, I think the best performance from Miller and the actor who plays his mum, whose name we don't know. He has to go to the supermarket and take the tin of tomatoes off of her to make sure that she dies, right? And it put me in an interesting place morally, because it's like, because he sees himself put the tin in there, and then he's there incognito taking the tin back out again. And it's like, did I cause this to that would put you in the place, did I cause this to happen in the first place? Like, was it my fault to begin with? And all this stuff. And she doesn't know who she is, but on some level emotionally she recognizes him, and he has to say goodbye to her without letting slip who he is. And it's heartbreaking, and the situation is heartbreaking. It's really sad, really powerful performance from both of them. And I watched that scene, I was like, I wish this was in a better movie. This scene is wonderful. I think it's really good. It's got all the kind of moral issues of time travel and everything. And it's like, but it's come after all the wacky knockabout fun. And it's kind of like,
in terms of performance, see, this is what I'm talking about, though. Is I think she is very fluid in that. She's very natural. She knows all the beats to hit, and she's doing the mum thing. And it's like anyone with a mum who's ever given their mum a hug, that you feel that. I think Ezra Miller in that, it feels very controlled. It's very like, I can almost feel the acting coach off camera coming up to him in between takes and being like, okay, so you're going to do that, because it's frustrating, because I want to buy into it, but knowing who he is and knowing what he's like, and I can see it. I can see he's hitting beats, but none of it feels natural to me. And that could be me bringing my own preconceived notions of him in, but I didn't. It didn't ring. It's frustrating, because with her, if I put myself in his shoes, I feel it, But
I kind of, in this situation, I'll defer to your higher knowledge of how such things are done.
Maybe I'm overthinking it, but
I think you're more qualified to talk about that than me before it was shy. But I like that scene. I think that scene, it surmises everything about this dilemma really nicely. And I just thought, oh fuck, this could have been a better movie. But let's talk about cameos.
Well, I mean, off the top, you got Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot or Gadot, depending.
Oh yeah.
Which is sort of just like, and it's so sort of like,
did you say
shot of her? Yes, I did. Yeah. We'll get to
as well. The most pointless post-credit scene, but anyway.
Yeah. But you get that. It's like everyone's theme plays when they turn up. It's really like, oh, okay. But. And there she is, she's wonderful and everything, but can't act her way out of a paper bag. And I think with cameos and stuff like this, it's very like, she's not getting any direction. She's there for a day. It's like, say these lines, please, gal.
Yeah,
like,
put your costume on, get your money and fuck off.
Yeah, basically.
Also, in that scene, Affleck's costume looks weird and baggy and
Well, when it's
Halloween.
actually a costume, yeah, because all the rest of
Yeah.
it's clearly like it's just put on him as he's in a mocap suit or whatever. It's like the mask looks terrible, like in close up, because it's clearly just CG. It looks painted on.
He's great again though. When he stood
Yeah.
as Bruce Wayne doing dialogue. I've never had a problem. I've had a problem with the films he's in, but I've never had a problem with Ben Affleck.
No, never had a problem with
And
Affleck.
you know he's looking well as well, because in some of the
Mm.
because he had a real problem with the drink and stuff, that he's kind of, you know, he's getting over his demons and whatnot. And you know, there's times in these cycle films where he's looked kind of quite unwell, and in this he looks great, and it's like, good for you. Go make your Ed Jordan's movie. I'll watch it.
It's good. Have you seen it? You've seen it?
No, not yet. I've
I've
watched it. I've heard it's fantastic.
Very sort of that mold, if you like, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was perfect.
I've heard good things.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are the cameos by real people that are alive.
Well, Jason Momoa, I think you talked, of course.
Yeah, it's a really. I think Jason Momoa is great. I love his performances. I think he's really charismatic. But like that scene adds nothing. It's so pointless.
Oh yeah, no, but there's a lot of that in this because, of course, it was all supposed to be setting up sequels, and you can see where they've gone no, and then they've hit the stop on that. There's reshoots as well. You can tell Ezra Miller's got this wig on that doesn't really work, and it's all pretty.
Well, I tell you what, the post-credit scene is this, right? Here's the whole post-credit scene. Aquaman, right, is drunk,
and he falls asleep in a puddle.
And it's like what? It's like 3 minutes long, right? It's
goes on.
Yeah, well, I thought like something big was going to happen because we were sat watching the credits, and it's like, dude, I'm just going to see if there's post credits so we can stick around. It's like, we'll stick around for the post credits. It's a doozy, and that is my fault for listening to the first Google result, because it was not a doozy. It was a kind of comedy scene. Well, Jason Momoa's performance is great in, but it's like this adds nothing
to what?
And you know, you do kind of see these things in it where it's like setting up stuff that we're never going to see again. You know, it sucks. Yeah.
Well, so that brings me on to, I think, the last live human cameo, which is George Clooney, and then that was definitely reshoots, because you can see like he's got his wig on and it's shot in the UK randomly. And
it feels like it might even be green screened a bit as well. Like,
even if it wasn't, but like it was still like clearly tacked on, and it's
just to clarify, just for, again, if you're here in spoiler town because you're not going to watch it or you don't give a shit. He puts the universe back, and then at the very end, he calls up Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne goes, "I'm coming." And like Bruce Wayne's face is concealed, and then he walks out the car, and he's George Clooney. I thought that was really funny. I liked that as a gag. I thought, considering the rest of it's just throwaway nonsense. Yeah, it felt like it was like a really high end sketch. It's kind of like the other side of the coin from the sad mum scene. It's like the funny. It's like, oh, dude, and the fact that George Clooney agreed to do it, I'm like, that's great. Fuck it, why not? Yeah, fuck it, why not? Nothing means anything. This is all getting thrown out anyway. Who cares?
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I think that happened very last minute, because they were going to throw it all out. Because I think if they were trying to set up serious sequels with Michael Keaton again, it's like, well, you wouldn't do that. There's clearly like they were like, fuck it. So, and I've nothing against Clooney. Clooney's wonderful, and I do. It's sort of poking fun, and there's the one F-bomb, isn't it? He goes, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Yeah, I like it because it's like a 12A. I guess you get your fuck. Yeah, who the fuck is? Yeah,
and then his tooth falls out. I don't get the tooth gag. And I get knocked out, and it's like, what, we're paying that off? Are we? Why?
Yeah, I get that. That has the rhythms of a good joke. I think, like in thing where that, you know, the thing, you know, you've had all the build up and then the thing, but that. He got his tooth knocked out 2 hours ago. There wasn't that much of a big deal made out of it. Like paying it off there.
Super glue. This is what I mean. Andy Muschietti has these weird jokes that I'm like, I know you think this is really funny, and I kind of get it, but I'm also like, what are you saying with that? He's got a cameo as well, hasn't he? Andy Muschiett's eating a hot dog when Flash runs into the courtroom, isn't he? Clooney. I mean, so for me, that was like, because we were always led to believe, I thought, that the Kilmer Clooney Batman was supposed to be the same as the.
I think that's something that's been recently. I think that's been recently addressed. I think they're just trying to wiggle out of that so they can make more Keaton stuff. That having been said, I'm at a point. I don't think it matters. Like I
don't. But obviously, this puts that to bed, because in theory they're not, right?
Well, see, here's the thing. Here's the way I do. This is how my head works for these recasts, right? I always imagine, so Val Kilmer, in the Val Kilmer Batman Forever universe, all the events of Batman and Batman Returns happened, but Batman looked like Val Kilmer. They're exactly the same, but Batman looked like Val Kilmer. It's just one way of thinking. You know, I mean, none of it matters because it's all made up. But
James
that's
Bond.
the way my head. Yeah, exactly. It all happened, but the guy looked different. It's a bit like going into. You can imagine The Dark Knight is a different universe where Rachel just had a different face 2 years ago. You know, for whatever reason. I thought it was funny, and it works most in isolation. And I'm good on fucking Clooney for. And of all the Batman, I think that's great. And he's must have been quite expensive.
I was going, please not Bale. It wasn't.
Yeah,
Because he's the only other sort of able-bodied Batman. Sorry, Val, that could have done.
Yeah, well, it's true. The thing is, I think I'm not shitting on him, but I think Christian Bale takes himself quite seriously. This is the kind of stuff he doesn't do. You know what I mean? Like, because he could have been. I think they wanted to give him a gazillion quid to carry on after Dark Knight Rises, didn't they? And he said no. I think he just doesn't want to.
He's always said, like, I'll do it if Chris Nolan will do it. But
yeah, right.
So.
Christopher Nolan's Flash. Yeah. Anyway, when they do a big, massive, they do a time that the time travel sequences are kind of a tesseract, which is stuff we've seen in Doctor Strange, and we've seen it in going back to Christopher Nolan, we've seen it in Inception, and there's a bunch of movies that have done that recently. But so we have a Henry Cavill cameo in there, and we have all the characters. So like Ron Livingston, who now plays the dad, so Billy Crudup, rendered in really, really bad CGI. Like you could argue, but that's what time travel looks like, as you said. But it's it's just like it's like. Do you remember the kind of rubbery replacement characters in the Matrix sequels that they had?
That's what I said. That's what I mean. Is that sort of is it supposed to look like that because we're in make believe now?
But in the Matrix, you're in a computer simulation, and even that's weak source in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Well, why don't they look like that?
It's supposed to look. Yeah, it's still supposed to look real. Like,
fake when I do a stunt. Bullshit.
What? Yeah.
So like the Henry Cavill in particular, I was just like, fuck. That's like. Again, I don't rag on VFX and CGI. It's not my thing. Like I might have done when I was 18, but I'm not anymore. Like it's a really important part of what we do now, and God knows we've used it. Right? It's fucking amazing.
And we know people who do it. For a living.
I do it.
I think this again isn't creative's fault. I think it's whatever's been thrown down.
This feels like a money thing.
Yeah.
Like this isn't the fault of the VFX people. It's like embarrassingly bad. Like it's just like cool. So they do Nicolas Cage Superman fighting a giant spider, which in principle is very funny. Like, well, I'm all right with it. But the thing is, the whole joke's ruined because you can barely, if you're not someone who's in on that joke, the CGI is ropey enough that you can't be 100% sure it's Nicolas Cage. I think a lot of the audience just be like, who's that? Like, the best looking ones I thought. So what happens was what I thought was so on the nose. They do the big time travel kind of chaotic fuck up at the end. Worlds collide, but it's literal. Like spheres come out and start hitting each other. So you see George Reeves, you see Adam West, you see Helen Slater and Christopher Reeve. You see someone as the Flash who's from like the WB shows, but as Jay Garrick Flash. It like the best looking ones, the ones I think they spent the most time on were Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater, but they still look terrible. But it's the ones they've done the best job on, like. But they just stood there looking out a time hole going, oh no. And the whole thing of like, he goes, the worlds are colliding. And it's just spheres. And like the George Reeve one's black and white. And then they uncollide. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, the Adam West Batman looked all right. You hardly see it because he kind of just goes past really quickly. The Chris Reeve and Helen Slater one just wound me up because I was like, why? You literally, am I really supposed to like this? It's like, what the guy tragically had no, like I'm not having this, like I'm sorry, like, and if you love that, this is a classic example of what I talk about with all this crap, right? It's like if you're a lover of those characters, you'll hate it. If you'd hate them, you'll hate it because you're like, I don't want to see this anymore. I mean, I don't think anyone hates Christopher Reeve, but it's like, so if you love and remember those films and that it's all part of it that he then died horribly, and and it's all kind of like bound up in. But what you love about those films is the character. Well, he doesn't get to do anything. He stands there and goes,
yeah,
and we pan around,
and they play the music.
Right.
Do you know what? So I don't hate. I've said this a bunch. Like I don't hate Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. Right? I don't hate it. People do. I think it's all right. I don't mind it. What I do also believe is that, do you remember when director Bloody Krennic walks in to talk to him, and all you see is that kind of shadowy,
the reflection. Yeah,
and I think a lot of us thought, oh, it's just that.
Yeah,
like that would have been way more tasteful and way kind of cooler, right? I like Guy Henry a lot. I used to watch Hockey City when I had a girlfriend, and he's great in that role, and I think the character is good in that. Like the CGI is not amazing, but I don't mind it. But it would have been classier to stop there. It's like he's present. So with the Christopher Reeve thing, so I don't, in principle, have an objection with them showing the Christopher Reeve universe. But if it was like a really brief bit of archived deleted footage of him looking up at the sky, something tasteful, something quick.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to acknowledge him and his legacy if you're doing this.
But not say he's still alive somehow, somewhere. You know, that to me is probably the more egregious. I think I like your idea 100%. Like, it's much better to say, like in the Keaton universe, for example, you could have archival footage of that Superman. And say, oh, it was part of that all along.
It was part of that universe, yeah. I mean, I'm all right in principle with the Christopher Reeve Superman being alive somewhere. I'm all right with it. I see what you're saying in terms of issues of taste, but I think what's jarring is having the kind of rubbery him just go, which is a bit like the "you want to get nuts, let's get nuts" part-time thing. It's just like it's perfunctory. So like if you had the Christopher Reeve world, and I like the idea of having him with Helen Slater just to knit those, because they were supposed to be in the same universe, to knit those together. But something a bit more in the mold of Christopher Peter Cushing's Reflection.
Yeah,
there's something very brief, and it's like, yeah, of course that exists. Because do you know what they did fucking do it with? They did it with Adam West. Like, it's from a distance, and it's him it's him in figure running around saying something about that. You hear his voice saying something about the Joker.
Cesar Romero laughing and stuff.
They did it, but that's the level of stuff I'm talking about. Yeah. I thought the Adam West one was quite classy. Inside the
always didn't go in and look at it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that would have worked okay, I suppose. But in
there.
But it's also throwaway, and it's all sort of like, you're just showing us this because you're cynical, because you know it's like the whole thing when at one point young Barry runs up to him and goes, "Look, this bag laughs," and it's like, hey, that's what was in the Joker's hand when he okay, fine, you know. And I guess the batteries haven't run out.
Or he changes them.
Or he keeps changing them. Here's the thing that really bugged me, right? And it's purely for plot convenience. So we see the Batcave, the Batcave. When Bruce Wayne's up there watching him on a monitor, and I think what convinces him to be Batman is because he overhears Barry sort of talking about what he's trying to do, and he kind of goes, "Okay, I'll help." But then he's like, "Right, I'll help," and all the Batsuits are kept upstairs behind a bookcase.
And presumably a razor and some clippers.
Yeah, because the whole point is the plot reasons. Barry then just to show the progression of time. Barry has to fall asleep at the monitor so that he can wake up to a cup of coffee and a dossier.
Yeah.
And then that time he's suited up and become Batman. And it's like, well, but why would he have all the accoutrements of Batman in Wayne Manor? Why wouldn't it be in the Batcave? Like, what? Because at that point we can't have him go down there, because then they'll have to have a dialogue.
It's full of. I just got really irritated by. You're right, actually. The reason Batman decides to help is because he watches that message. But there are whole bits of just people just doing things to move the plot forward, and you don't know why, and their motivations aren't clear. And it's just like, even the most basic, because you could go, well, that's what would you expect? It's like, no, that's the most basic storytelling.
I don't get as well how like Zod's able to stab Supergirl. Like, he did it in Man of Steel to Jor-El, but that was on Krypton where they went. Whereas
and then Flash is able to stab Feora, like, because he has a bit of Kryptonian. It's like, so could Superman have just done that the whole time? But he doesn't kill, except he does. Like what are we saying? And all that stuff, that big CGI fight in the desert, it's just like green screen. Same for the one in
it's terrible.
Antarctica or whatever, or the Arctic. I can always get those wrong.
He says, why is it? No, he goes, why is it cold? He goes, because we're in Antarctica. You're in Russia.
Well,
aren't you?
Well, here's the thing, though, because they say they're going to Antarctica, but then it's just like a Russian Soviet base.
Well, no, he says, she's being held in a Russian black site inside. I thought it was Siberia. It was supposed to be Siberia.
So, well, here's the thing: the fact we're confused, because I understood they were going to Antarctica right there, but then like there's a big Soviet base and it starts playing like Russian music, and it's like, are we saying in this universe the Soviet Union's still there, or like why what? Like,
there's a good gag where he goes to basically recreate the Vicky Vale Batman thing with the grapple gun.
That was good.
And he puts his leg up and he just looks at him, puts his leg down,
just grabs him.
That was, I mean, but again,
Keaton's great.
Yeah,
but he looks great in the costume again as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the redesign, but I think it works well. The problem is none of that was ever supposed to be shown in broad daylight, so it's very slow. Batman
fighting in day, and it's like, this isn't what. Do you remember that fan film that by Sandy Collier, the Batman Dead one, when he fights the Predators. Yeah, really cool. Clog Batram is they did a follow-up of World's Finest with him and some of the guys Superman, and it was a trailer.
Right. Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's him in that costume running around Metropolis in the sunlight, and it's like, even you, because they did a really cool kind of the fabric, kind of Dark Knight-ish. But even you guys, like, you put it in the sunshine, it just doesn't look as good. Like, it kind of works in the Justice League cartoon because it's cartoon, it's that kind of 2D thing. And Batman has to go out in the day sometimes, of course. I mean, the film opens with Batman in the day, with Affleck Batman, rubbery CGI Affleck Batman in the day. Do you know what, man?
I thought it was a missed opportunity, though, not to put him in Arctic Adventure Batman's.
Yes, exactly. Well, he had it in the Batcave. yeah. Volcano Mission Batman. And,
that would have been so. Why not do it? Like, why not do it? It's there.
It's what you. Do you know what? Considering what's come before, because that is what happens in the end of Watchmen. Because in the book, like Night Owl has the kind of because it's referencing that kind of stuff, which is all fucking Silver Age. Anyway, we've hit 46 minutes, so I think it might be time to wrap up. I don't like reviews to go on too long, and I don't want to inflict that upon others.
Well, it's a sort of review and spoiler discussion, I suppose. But
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Unless you want to continue, in which case.
I'm trying to think if there's anything I had left to say. I mean, I think we've covered most of the moments that stood out.
So the score's by Benjamin Wallfish, and I like that he did things. Well, I like that he did things. He did things that sounded like Elfman but weren't Elfman. He did references to Back to the Future, but the thing is, the constant tortured references to Back to the Future in this are just like, you know what? In Avengers Endgame, they had Alan Silvestri who referenced his own music, and I'm not having to go at Benjamin Wallfish over this, but Alan Silvestri did subtle little references to his own music from Back to the Future, and then you have the one scene where Scott Lang brings up Back to the Future, Robert Downey Jr. is like, shut the fuck up, and that's it. This is like back. They have the running joke about in this universe, Eric Stoltz was Mime McFly, which gets drawn all the way out for quite some time, and then just constant references Back to the Future, and then they do the lightning thing. Like the Benjamin Franklin, and then it's all 88 miles per hour Martin, whatever, and it's just endless. And it's like, we get it. It's time. If you're doing time travel, we understand it's like Back to the Future. We've all seen it, as your character continues to keep saying. We all know. They don't have to fucking. We get it.
There were two moments that made me laugh out loud. And again, this is another example of a joke being rammed home a bit too much. But the way they did it did make me laugh. Is when they're about to be dropped off. And Barry turns to Barry, and he's got, because he's in the returns costume, like it doesn't turn, so his whole face is like,
yes,
which is a gag that has been run into the ground now. And as far as I'm concerned, okay, now leave it, like we get it.
Like, we've done it now. I will say one little thing.
No, and then the other thing I think that made me laugh out loud, we just went when they're about to run off, and he goes, "Come on, Barbie," and he goes, like, "Let's go party," and then okay, that's your thing. But yeah, sorry. Come.
There was one lovely, subtle little joke that I liked a lot, which is when the first time we see Barry phase to get the beer, he does it through the poster of Raquel Welch from 1 million years BC, because it's a reference to the tunnel behind the poster in Shawshank, right? So he goes through it. Okay, I thought that's a very lovely, subtle.
Yeah.
You get it or you don't. It's a good little thing. He's going for it. I just say, hey, you know what? That's cool, and that's quite early doors.
Yeah. That's a production design thing, though, really. But yeah.
Well, I wonder if it's the kind of thing, because I wonder if Machete put it there, because it feels to me as a kind of, from a cinematography, from a framing standpoint, it felt intentional, because they flap and he goes through the poster of Raquel Welch. It's like, yeah, it's the tunnel behind the poster from Shawshank, surely.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, don't see it. It's shit.
It's like you said, I'm not like offended. It's not like I wasn't as bored as I was in the Batman. I actually found I prefer watching this.
Yeah,
but yeah, I prefer watching this. It's more entertaining. I mean, it's
got jokes in it, and it's got some visual flair.
Throwing babies in the falling babies thing was a bit like,
it was very tortured, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit.
I really think the X-Men just shat in that punch bowl straight up. No one's done it as well as the Fox X-Men movies, which is not a phrase they use often.
No, but you're right. But yeah, it's I look, it's one of those. I would never. I know I glibly said it's shite. Don't watch it, but I think it's you might enjoy it, and if you do, that's fine. None of this is going anywhere. In a way, that's quite refreshing, but in another way, it's quite irritating because you're going to sit and invest 2 hours of your time in people at times saying it's all to play for, and at other times dying, and saying it's all final, and it's kind of like, right, it's a very schizophrenic film. Or it's a very bipolar film. It kind of just wants to be.
It feels tampered with, doesn't it? I think.
Oh, big time. And you, like I said, you can see moments like there's bits where Barry's talking to Barry, and it's like the Barry in the Flash costumes lower mouth is definitely not there. It's been CG replaced to say other stuff, and it's more towards the end of the film, more towards the third act, where it's like, I'm like, you are setting up stuff here, and I'm sure if I went back and rewatched it, it would be dialogue around.
It's like that bit when he looks at the camera and says, "I detest violence against women."
Gives a public service announcement. A PSA.
The word apology is used a lot these days. I thought
now
for the most
we're done.
Yes, zinc. And most of the Dead Ringers twin stuff, I thought it really great.
Like, really, yeah, I mean that's something that people like. Yeah, but
it's
hard to do, but it worked.
Yeah, it looked great. I think it looked really, really good. So 100%. And yeah, it's inoffensive. I was just mostly bored by it, and it's got internal inconsistencies that were irritating, but I was mostly bored. So, and absolutely, as usual, if you enjoyed it, please continue to enjoy it. Go watch it 100 times if you want. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. And I wouldn't hate someone for liking it or anything. Like, and I like.
It's just a sad thing we have to qualify by talking about this stuff on the internet. This isn't this isn't an assault on your religion. We don't agree with you about a film. Please stop. Don't register accounts and start harassing us, because trust me, it happened in the past.
Yeah.
Particularly Man of Steel.
I won't watch it.
Yeah. All right. Those are our thoughts. If it's your first time here, thank you for enjoying the last 51 minutes. You can like and subscribe. We do this kind of thing a fair old bit. We've just released a short film called Type 2 Bleed, which is on the channel, which is going down rather well, which we're pleased about. And there's lots of ancillary materials coming out for that. We recently Duncan talked with Brad Watson and Megan Lockhurst for like 3 hours about every single James Bond film, which we're slowly carving into pieces. I spoke to Brad Watson and Megan Lockhurst about about the first 6 Star Trek movies. And that will be coming out soon as well. But in the meantime, we hope you enjoy this. And Duncan, if that's all, I'm going to throw over to the outro.
Please do. That is all from me. Thank you, everyone, very much for watching. And we'll see you again soon.
Goodbye.